Hey, it's Chris. Crowdfunding roundup week 3 of 2025. Where are things at as we reach the culmination of the second to last week of January? Right? You ready? Whew. And you know what? Hopefully, between now and the end of January, we'll do a Don't Back Anything, because those are fun to do once a month as well. I love talking like that. And we'll have a, don't buy anything at retail as well. So, a lot of reviews out this week. Completely screwed up the rules explanation of Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. So, in case you're wondering what happened with that, it went down and then it went back up. So, duh, idiot here. Camera goes on sometimes and you just completely flub things. Completely flub things. You play it one way, you play it one way, you play it one way, and you talk about it another way. And thank you, astute viewer, in the comment section down below that alerted me just completely screwing it up. So, fell on my sword again. Longtime viewers are like, yeah, he does that a lot. I'm like, I know, I'm trying. Okay. Human, fall, error, sin, done. Games, let's do it. Now, Hearts of Iron, Steamforged just launched it, and $300,000. And this is based off of a video game, that's Steamforge's thing. And so what you're getting is a 2 to 5 player strategic experience. It reminds me of Risk, but more like it's World Order from Hegemonic Games from last year. It gives those sorts of vibes, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be controlling one of these major powers during World War II, playing over a 6-year span, i.e. 6 rounds, acquiring the most victory points at the end by allying, expanding your borders, constructing factories, moving your tanks around, rolling dice to battle with pips knocking out your troops as you go, but then also trying to research, take control of events, build your engine via the cards that are going to be available with you. 5 phases, each element going to be managed slightly differently. Each phase, though, differing because some will be simultaneous, some will be everybody, and some may also only be the first player. At the beginning of the game, you have like several different of these decks, your engine deck, your research deck, all of these that are going to be playing into your, literal hand, because your engine cards are going to be what you're going to be utilizing in the second phase of things to play down and then reveal and take certain actions that are going to then trickle down and have effects into the next phase, which is going to be where all of the rest of the main actions are being taken. I decided just to pull up the rulebook so you can get a better glimpse of things if you're a visual learner like I am. The engine phase, like I mentioned, playing one of those cards down. The action phase, then going through the 5 different types of actions you're going to be taking: construction, research, focus, production, and deployment. And this is also going to lay on top of the allied system, or the aggression system that they've got there. Not only are you going to have a different political track that's going to track your allegiances to other countries, your ideologies as well for minor countries that are going to be under your influence as one of the major powers, but you're also going to have an aggression track for each of these that you're going to slide your flag along depending on how aggressive or how at war potentially you are as you're going along. In addition, the research, the focus that I mentioned, again, a lot of detail going into this, talking about these different cards in these different phases, and then also the political phase where you're going to have tensions going on between these, and then finally, obviously, the big style of things with the war phase or the conflict phase, which is going to be evolving, moving your units and increasing aggression for those that you're next to. And as indicated here on the resolving battle phase under the conflicts that I was just talking about, it's going to be heavily dice dependent, but you may have local conflicts as well as regional conflicts if you have troops in an area that is a region that is controlled by one of your enemies, and you're going to be able to choose which of your troops that you so want to lose. And then we get back to the final end phase where you're going to be drawing your random event card, gathering your resources, checking the stability of those regions, scoring your victory points, and advancing, including passing on that first player all-important marker to someone else. So the interesting thing is that the game comes with several factions from the get-go in the core box, including the free gameplay expansion, which is the stretch goals, in case that's not clear. But also, if we go on here, you can see that the special edition is going to have miniatures, the regular edition is going to have tokens and standees, and you're going to have UK, French, German, Italian, and Soviet in the core. And then if we go down further for the gameplay add-on expansions, also split into miniature and non-miniature versions, we have Spain as well as Sweden right here that you can see. That's the game in a nutshell. There's a few videos down there from the biggest to biggest, and you can check it out if you want a little bit more how nuanced flow game is going to go, and more gameplay content unlocked as we go along in the campaign. So that is Hearts of Iron, and this has a big video game following, so I'm not really surprised. There are a couple channels that are talking about it and just dedicated to that. So if you like it, give it a look-see over on GameFound. So, Malediction, miniature card-driven game. Now, miniatures, but also standees, if you prefer that. 1,100 people for $250,000 right now. And they are comparing this to like a Magic the Gathering meets Warhammer sort of situation. And you can 3D print your miniatures if you want. They're going to offer you the files. And I like the page because it goes here and it says, okay, what makes this unique? If you get, like halfway down. Unparalleled strategic freedom. Fight until the very end. As opposed to not fighting until the very end in other games, right? Like, I usually give up halfway through. Reinforce to enforce. So you bring more units out, right? You can deploy allies next to your units if they're out of combat, is essentially what they're saying. Terrain placement, super simple, super straightforward. You got your ready to print ones with the STLs, and quality on all fronts. Because again, like, other things are just marking themselves as I'm not going to be quality. Anyway, though, okay, facetiousness aside, sarcasm aside. This is a 4-phase system with a base core of 4 different factions that you're going to be playing on a turn-by-turn measuring basis that you're setting up approximately a 30-card deck when you customize it and build it a la your Magic the Gathering element of things, giving you various different types of and rarities of cards that will help you and help your, allies as you're going along. And it's a measure, attack, escape, battle, retaliate, all sorts of things like that. Skirmish, if you will. And it incorporates everything that I mentioned, right? It has terrain. It has the vision that you're looking for. It's got some pretty decently looking cool miniatures, but again, I didn't see anything dramatically different in the rulebook when I was looking this one over as a, wow, this is something completely unique. Roll your dice, add your skill modifiers of one of your 6 different skills. See if your skill beats their skill. Move out of range of somebody who's next to you, you get a retaliation attack. You can make a special move called shift to avoid it by taking extra action points. I mean, you've got your cards based on your units, your relics, and your items and your spells. And the main key of this game is, in order to win, you have to have a certain number of mastery points. And mastery points are, victory points, right? You get them by, surprise, surprise, killing your enemies and holding these relics and picking them up off the husks of your opponents, essentially. If there's meeting certain conditions, there's no one nearby, things like that. And those are worth like 10 points. And they say the basic game will most of the time run you about 25 points total. So kill 3 people and pick up their relics, essentially, if you can. And they run you through the factions here and the miniatures and the card differences a little bit. And then we kind of get down to the previews, and that's about it. There's a bunch of previews that you can check out in addition. So again, I look at this and I go, as someone who's not a war gamer on the tabletop with the measuring style of things, how is this that much better than the 100 or so, slightly joking, but the half dozen or so that are really, really well known, putting out really, really good quality products? Is it just you're going to be able to get a faction box slightly cheaper? Because a faction box is a faction box. And so if you want more than one, right, what are you actually going to have to pledge? You're going to have to pledge at least $100. So as a aperitif taster to get in. Apart from that, right, maybe you'll have it sometime in, holy crap, is that the end of 2026? Or is that just extra stuff? Journey of Expansions, Innovations, Fulfillment, they say in April. So you're going to have all of this stuff in 3 months. I mean, I guess if you have all the STL files already done and you literally just have to hit the print button, I'd still be a little worried, but that's a really quick turnaround. And if they're a good, well-known studio, then maybe it's not as big a concern overall. So, there you go. I actually was on their like pre-email list, and I sent them an email back to the email address listed, and like it came back as can't deliver. So that was a weird situation, but clearly they're putting out a product that people are loving. So Give it a look-see if you're that style today. Then Teotihuican is back with a reprint of the City of Gods Deluxe Master Edition. Deluxe Master Edition. I remember this came around the first time. I was, Deluxe Super Ultimate Master Incredible Edition. 6,000 backers, a huge previous campaign. So, why back now? Yeah, why do I want this now? Is it just not available at retail? I'm assuming that's what it is. But again, I'd make the argument that it's a Castles of Burgundy, sort of Castles of the Mad King Ludwig situation. Unless you're really absolutely in love and enamored with this game and you need to have all the matching stuff and the slightly new expansion content that was offered in this campaign versus the retail previous, and you want all the promos in addition, I mean, is it worth, $150, $160 for this? And yeah, it's a fun game. It's a dice work replacement. Yes, I have actually played it. I owned it with an expansion and ended up trading it away, I think. So, I mean, it's a deluxeified, Euro in the top 100 or so games of all time of the heavier-ish dice work replacements. And yeah, it's not super, super heavy. It's accessible enough that I can learn it, so there you go. But I just look at this nowadays and I go, 450 components. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. How big is that box? How much weight is that going to be to lift that thing up? Or how much space is that going to take up? How easy is it going to be punch all of this other stuff that's non-wooden as well? So, only 119 euros. So yeah, it's probably going to be 160 bucks probably shipped right now. It looks pretty though. I guess the only question I have is that if it only has $50,000, it seems like to me that that's low, especially if you're going off of the previous crowds. That makes me think you don't have anything new on the campaign page this time, because GameFound doesn't require that, I don't believe, unlike Kickstarter. So new content unlocked during the previous campaign. So again, previous campaign unlocks, not anything new this time around. What's new this time? Photo session of printed game. That's great. The definitive collection of all the people that were talking about it previously. And, an all-in pledge if you want to spend $250 as well. Piecemeal it, 5th player expansion, playmats. Playmats are probably good. I'm not sure to do the 5th player expansion. And promo packs, which I've talked about promo packs extensively on this channel. So there you go. But it doesn't appear to be anything actually new. And that's, I guess, why nobody is backing it as much and to any extent as they were previously, because the people that really, 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 really wanted it already got it. And the few people that missed it are getting it now. Which, again, is very interesting because we did not see as nearly a big a discrepancy with Castles of Burgundy first time around versus second time around, arguably. And I would say that, yes, that is a better game. Yes, that is a bigger game overall. But to this extent, I'm a little surprised. So we'll see where it goes, though. So either way, get your copy if you're interested. I got to mention it, right? Because it also is 50 grand right now. StageTop 2 3D printed gaming tables. I covered tables last week as well in one of the campaigns over on GameFound. And again, I'm going to stay true and similar of saying, furniture, I want to try before I buy. And printing a table and putting it together, that sounds like a horrible aspect for someone who is totally not mechanical like myself. However, my brother-in-law actually just got a big 3D printer for Christmas this year. And he's been itching to do all sorts of stuff, whatever he can get his hands on. So, maybe I'll show this to him and see what he thinks and see if he thinks this is feasible. Previous customers, you can upgrade to 2.0. Ooh, that doesn't make me feel great about things though. So I'm just having to look at this a second to make sure this is the actual table. It is the actual table. But then also it says down here, when you go to the next one, right, you also get the original, you get the theme tables, and you get the bonus pack files, which also makes me go down here, right, commercial. So lifetime commercial printing rights. So I'm sorry, this is my limited understanding of these sort of things. Does that mean if I buy one of these up here, I can only print it for so long, or I can only use it for personal use compared to commercial use? I don't have a clue. Right, there you go. Assemble it in those easy peasy steps. Again, I would love this. I would love a table to play stuff on. I would love a better table than the one I'm talking on and at right now. But holy crap, that does not look like it at all would be actually usable. I was just talking about that in a different video earlier tonight where I was like, the practicality of it versus it actually is cool difference is just, two separate things as a whole. I also haven't heard anything positive or negative on any of the boards, any of the other websites, or any of the other channels. So someday I will be big enough to maybe have somebody send me a table, right? Oh, that's not happening. But that is just kind of where things are at. So I have no idea. but a second campaign means it must be relatively well received from the first campaign alone. So enough to get 50 grand the second time around, which is still good, really good actually, considering those prices. So give it a look-see, I guess. Now we have Baghdad, the City of Peace. I actually have a copy sitting on my counter right now. So before this campaign is ended in 3 weeks, I will have a few more thoughts on this upcoming Alley Cat games, as well as sort of a twist on the worker placement tableau style. If I'm comparing it correctly, it gives me vibes of City of Games, earlier 2024 release of Emberleaf, because you're going to be playing these individual character cards with their asymmetric abilities, and you're going to be sliding them along your tableau, pushing them to the right as you place it down. And when they also get pushed off, they activate an ability as you're moving your vizier around there, trying to build buildings, grab tiles, get boats, get bonuses, avoid getting shame, and scoring the most points you can at the end, right? It is a freaking mega rondo with some programmed hand management because of how you're going to be laying that tableau out and when you want things to trigger as they're getting pushed off. So, wow, is this actually going to be available at Essen? Wow, that's a quick turnaround from Alley Cat. So, big circular game board right there. I actually like that. But with Avalon the Rivenvale too, it's a little bit of a hard sell sometimes because these are big and this teardown and setup is a little bit more complicated. And you're doing it for the deluxeifications, the uniquely illustrated asymmetric ability cards that are going to go along with it, and tokens and tokens and tokens galore. So, deluxeification. And this is a whole nother board. Is this like a little mini expansion to go along with it? I only have the base, so can't speak of that right now. At least that's what I think, because all I've seen. So there you go. We get a solo mode in addition. A bunch of people talking about it and giving you some look-sees as well. And, ooh, co-designer of Shackleton Base. That's probably the biggest under-the-radar game of 2024. It just wasn't widely available over in North America, so I think it didn't get as much recognition over here, but people really seem to love that. Like right up there with SETI is the argument I've heard. So a few stretch goals here. What are we getting? Deluxeifications, and a little bit gameplay right there, if it hits that, which it's on good track to do so. Pledge levels. What's it going to cost you, though? A deluxe edition? Ooh, not bad. $61. Gets you an expansion and stretch goals. I mean, for a deluxe Euro game nowadays on crowdfunding, as we were just looking at Darwin's Journey, right? That's not too shabby. It's about what I would expect. And with all of the other accoutrements, sleeves and metal coins, it's right where you would expect, about the $100 mark. So tableau, action building, and asymmetry to go along with it. And I like the asymmetric boards. That's one of the best parts of these games in addition. And I love the temporary assistance as you're learning to switch and manipulate and gain bonuses in different ways. Rulebook is there. Other people smarter than me have already previewed it, and you can check out their content or wait for mine and subscribe if you're not subscribed and you're somehow watching this. So there you go. That is it. Oh, look, spoilers. That's what we're talking about next. La Patisserie Rococo. And that is the next one up from Eagle Griffin Games. Very similar funding right there, right? It's always weird how these things go in waves, right? Like all of a sudden we'll have like six-figure games in 1 week, and they'll be similar, like 150 to 200,000. And then all of a sudden we've got like a bunch of $50,000 games too. It's just kind of cool. I like those things. Those things stick out in my head, and you know they go in other parts of life too when they go in waves. People are like, stick to the board games, Chris. It's my channel. I can do what I want. So, King Louis XV, you have a remake. I believe this was like, or at least a slight twisting of the Cookie Champion one that they didn't go through with, or that they canceled the campaign with. Was it last year or even a slightly before that? And so this is a 4-phase system as you're basically getting and gathering ingredients, gathering your recipes, and then using worker asymmetric cards, staff cards, if you will, in order to essentially almost, again, action program. Because these staff cards that you're going to have, you're going to be acquiring on a round-by-round basis, and you're going to be taking the unused ones into your hand as the start of the second phase, and you're going to be choosing 4 of them to even put into your hand in the first place. Then everybody drafts 2 additional ones for a total of 6. And then here's where the tricky part is, right? Remember those 4 that you got at the beginning? You want to take your best ones. However, you now have 6 cards in your hand. You have to get rid of one of those cards forever from the rest of the game now. So then you play those 5 cards. They're all going to have main actions, and then after you can only do it after, you get a bonus action that's available to you potentially on these cards as well, in order to gather all of the other things that I just mentioned: recipes, goods, ownership, and everything else that's going to get you points in a multivariable way. And I couldn't remember it off the top of my head, so I decided just to pull it up. 9 different main actions you're going to be doing here of the things that I mentioned: choosing your recipe cards, acquiring your ingredients, buying the goods along the way, baking your pastries, decorating your pastries, delivering your pastries, as well as hiring more staff of the ones I mentioned, because you might not have more than 4 of those cards to begin with. So getting more options, giving notice, you can fire your staff, and which is really interesting. But it's a deck weaning aspect too. Or you can place your staff or the host with some ownership there as well. So last one, gain your money, rinse and repeat. Do it 4 times, and that is the name of the game. You know what? This is probably my weight for worker placement, or this vibe of things. Probably my preferred Eagle Griffin style or Eagle Griffin weight wise. $5 promo pack is your other real incentive to get it right now. And, you know, $45, as we were just talking with Baghdad, it's probably, you know, the lighter worker placements. That's what we're seeing as a whole. Not the heavies, right? Those tend to be heavy, right? In terms of stealing bucks from your wallet. So, yeah, nice, straightforward, but it's got some nuance there in both of these cases. Give them a look-see. Next up, Treasure Ship of, I'm going to mispronounce this, Zheng. I don't know, I'm sorry. But the important part with this is, you know, the pedigree behind this, the designer of Yokohama. That's why it's got $28,000, folks. And that's why you should give it a look-see if you're a mechanics person from more of a Euro style. And I really like the how to play. The rulebook is there, but just even the video content here is going to be a lot more helpful. The rulebook is, you know, triple spaced, so it's a little bit of a tougher read in some ways. Not difficult, but just spaced out, and you got to have the not ADHD style of things that I've got going on sometimes. So what you're doing over 7 rounds, you're doing a 4-phase system here, where you're going to be choosing in player order to begin with which high official you're supporting, and you give them goods, you get rewards, very straightforward. Then, in order of that rank that the high official has, depending on what you just chose to support, you get to, well, choose which leg of the voyage you get to, well, choose the route of. And so why that matters is because each of these next phases has 3 or 4 legs. You reveal the voyage cards, decide which route to take, and these action spots that you're going to be taking along the route actually determine what actions are there in the first place. So you get to then choose the spaces not selected by the commander for their actions, which is pretty kind of cool. And those different actions include diplomacy, gathering goods, money, collecting animals, selling, trading with merchants, or fighting with pirates. So you can also do them twice. You do this a leg by leg on the voyage. You go back to the beginning. You do that 7 times until you have the most points at the end. I kind of like the aesthetic of that. Just very simple, very, you see, and what you know and what you get is all straightforward. Rulebook is right there, like I mentioned. I like the aesthetic for this. I am a minimalist in the first place. You get some nice wooden tokens here. Project is funded. This was on my radar already. Miss Merck has one of the videos down here, but she and Cardboard East are really like, they are in tune and they have a lot of contacts over there. So she lets me know sometimes when stuff like this is upcoming. And I actually have a game as well that I'm going to be talking about with her. It's an abstract game. We'll talk about it. Don't worry. But it was also on Cardboard East's 25 most anticipated. So if you're like me, go watch his stuff, because that's where I get some of this stuff too and learn about some of this stuff and get excited. So give them a shout out if nothing else. And shipping is going to be shipping. So that's not too bad, actually, for shipping from Japan. So take that for what you will. When are we getting it, though? When are we getting it? Let's see. August. Ooh, that's a quick turnaround. So I like that. I like the quick turnarounds this video. That's impressive. Price point is fine. I mean, it's, again, $65 because this is one of those indie. You're not going to get this anywhere else. You are not going to get this anywhere else. This is not going to come wide retail. You know, this isn't me FOMOing saying to hype it up, but these just don't come available in North America publishers or, well, really retail at all. So if you're interested, give it a look-see. Mechanically speaking, there you go. It's almost like I had this queued up, right? OrthoGnomes. But it's a 3D abstract game. And it's from the same designer company, Phantom Lab, that did Acornism. When I talked about that one last year, I'm apparently the only one that liked it. I liked it. It was a nice abstract game. $5,000 though, getting this one. Again, you're not going to find this anywhere else. You didn't find Acornism anywhere else either if you were interested in that one. And so essentially, it's a 3D strategy game. All you do is you put down these cubes, you look at from the 5 different angles, either top down or one of the 4 sides, and you place them at 90 degrees next to each other orthogonally, hence the name of the game. They both have light and dark sides, and you just got to do tic-tac-toe 4 in a row to win. That's it. These are nice, hefty blocks. I have a copy sitting out on my table, and I'm going to include this in a multi-game review very nearly in the future. By the way, watch my review videos too, right? Come on, you know you want to. Anyway, that's what I'll be talking about. And then the other one, Palinomes, as well, is an interesting sort of gather them up, manipulate them, sort of like that little game you see in restaurants of, you know, you can move the little pegs over each other until you get one left. It's kind of like that, only you have specific rules in which you can place them down across the board. So there's Acornism again. So great 2-player game. I like it as a 2-player. I don't like it as a 3 or 4 because I'm an abstract proof of information, have to have most control. So there you go. And there's the other one I am not familiar with. I'm going to mispronounce that. We'll pass on that. But Push Off, Frogo, offering all their games, apparently. So if you're interested in any of these, give it a look-see from Phantom Lab here. So more in me talking about OrthoGnomes here in the future as well on a separate video. You know he's going to mispronounce this one. Khlor. Is that supposed to be a fancy or a different way of spelling color? But either way, it's got $6,000. And so this is just like a little bit of a light abstract strategy game with a polyomino twist. Because what you do is you set down 2 of these tiles on this 7x7 grid. And then what you do is you take a polyomino that matches the direction of the tiles in the first place. And you take the top one of those and you try and collect as many of those in as many different colors to get the majority of them that you can. However, if you get ones that are not down there, or you start to get the eggs, you can start placing the eggs and grabbing the eggs, and then majority of those are going to be one way that you're going to be scoring here in the end game. Now, the interesting part of this as well, mechanically speaking, is that these polyominoes that you see around the box, or around the board, I mean, is that's actually where it's going to be, because you're going to have a dragon piece that you put down, and you have the option of 2 of those polyominoes that are in front of it. And so then you move it to the one that you want, you then place the one that you used behind it, and then the next person has their choice of 2 of them as well. And as you can see here, the 7 polyominoes that you have, the 96 stackable wooden tokens, and the dragon eggs to go along with it. Rule books and tokens and tokens and tokens galore. So that's it though. A little bit of preview content in addition, and everything that you need to know as well. So rulebook is on the page, and pricing for a small indie game, and it's a little expensive for what it is, truth be told, but this is probably, just like the previous 2, not something you're going to find or be able to get elsewhere on the secondary market. So give it a look-see. Then the cemetery game, where the dead don't rest in peace, and you're like literally burying these in tombs as part of your mechanic on a turn-by-turn basis, and you slide the cards along as you're going, and you bury them and you dig them up, and you try and seal the tombs so other people can't, you know, dig them out themselves, right? As you can see here, this is how you're burying them and what you're going to be kind of doing. And sealing them prevents other people from taking what's yours, right? Tomb raiding, if you will. Sorry, I couldn't resist that one. So you're going to have development cards. You're going to have different ability cards that you're going to be playing along the way. And they're giving you a new pet edition as well with this Kickstarter. So you can combine it and play up to 8 players in this strategic mayhem as a whole. Rulebook's on the page. You get a little bit of exclusives here, they say as well. And they run you through some of what these cards are going to look like and how they're going to affect things. You redraw up to 5 cards at the end of every turn. And if you have more than 10 cards, you have to, well, discard down. The Darkness Falls expansion here is going to give you a few new mechanics, a few new abilities, and a few new challenges of unpredictability along the way. Sinister new objective goal cards to outplay your opponents. So, there you go. 22, 40, or 80 for some collectors. Ooh, 110 if you're really, really feeling blingy and splashy. So I'll give you a little bit of a nice GIF overview here of burying these corpses depending on the values. So strategically burying the right ones at the right times, digging down to seal the tombs and get the victory points from the ones buried in it, or using a little bit of take that to dig up your opponents and raise the zombie. Then playing those development cards because you have a certain number of cards and actions on your turn that you're going to be utilizing all of these with. And then use your corpse with the abilities that are present to, well, beat your opponent. So there you go. That's it. Rulebook, a couple videos, and everything you need to know is on the page. So give it a look-see and see where it's at in a couple days. Lazy Panda. Again, what has it got? Like almost 30 grand now at this point. So come on, mouse, stop scrolling there. Yeah, 31 grand. Then we have Time and Coyote, a 2-player asymmetric game of overlapping card play, if you will. Whereas the Time player is trying to lay these cards down to delay and to keep control of the places of power that are indicated as these two cards meet as the places of power are discovered and laid out in the first place. Coyote is going to be moving across 3 spaces on a turn-by-turn basis, as well as using one of their instincts that are going to allow them to manipulate these cards and the progression of them as they're going along, as you can see here, as time lays one down, and then Coyote moves and manipulates overlaying. You can also only overlay a certain number of those squares previously. You're going to have barriers, you're going to have things like barbed wires, as well as homesteads that are going to get in your way, and you're going to be slowly trying to make these pieces of power right here, 2 of them together, and then the Coyote moves over to them and then lays down one of their instincts on it in order to capture it. If the Coyote cannot play an instinct on a turn, they lose. And the most of the 7 places of power that are controlled by either player is the winner. Relatively straightforward game. A lot of, well, strategy though as you're going along. It runs you through the symbols and the instincts here of the Coyote itself, and then the time progression card symbology that's going to be present to allow you to mitigate. Rulebook is there, tabletop simulator, and a print and play if you feel so inclined. So there you go. Tell them Liege sent you. Make $100, $1,500, $2,000. Then Where Am I? Alice and Mad Tea Party expanded. And this is like literally little furniture and chairs. And you're going to be selecting a character and placing it in a chair, selecting a letter and placing it by a character, and then selecting a food item and placing it in front of that chair. And the combination of who has the most and who can guess correctly, because you don't know who everyone else is representing. And so when you're placing them, you have to be very strategic. Is kind of the gist of the game, and the rulebook is on the page, but that's about it. You get an actual like little furniture deluxe add-on if you want, right? Loose leaf tea and 2 editions in 2 different colors depending on your aesthetic preference. So that's everything though that's on the page. There you go. Japanime in combination with Gotani. It's a Japanese board game publisher. So over here on BackerKit, I remembered for once. There you go. Last up, Cat versus Human, a game of bite and spite, 16 grand of a 4 grand funding goal. And this is based off of a webcomic that gets posted to Reddit all the time. And Reddit's really weird, right? You put out 3 human cards on a round by round basis. You have a bunch of cat cards, and these cat cards have basically little powers potentially and little strengths. And you have to match the symbol on the cat card to the human to get the full points. But if it doesn't match, you can place it face down. And you just have to irritate like the most humans, or first 1 to 5, I think is what it is. And that's about it. You draw cards up at the end of every round and you just rinse and repeat. So $29 Canadian, $20 US. And if you want to somehow get deluxe cat meeples, you can spend $32 as well. And so cats, that in the combination of the webcomic following is why it's got 16 grand. So there you go. There you go. Roundup done. And what's upcoming then? What's coming this week? In case you missed my videos, right? Like, I talked about some smaller games, Azul Duel. We talked about Fellowship of the Ring. We also, well, Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game, as well as Everdell Duo. Great, actually, 2-player fantastic games. I know not as much interest in those games, but I'll tell you right now, they're that good. So if you're watching this video, just go check them out. Not even my video. They're very solid games from a 2-player standpoint. And I think I'm going to do a video just talking about all of those dual games recently, letting you know in a combined video, my rankings, my thoughts on them, and maybe a few other, thoughts on there about which ones I'd love to see versions of that as well going forward. So, yeah. And then also I have a review sitting, waiting to come out of Intent to Kill from 25th Century Games that was on Crowdfunding Roundup last week. That's actually going to be in combination with DC deck building as well. And the common theme there is they both surpassed expectations, or they surprised me in a very good way. So take that for what you will. Also, in case you're wondering, boom, your boy's got some White Death right there. That'll be coming out hopefully in the next week or 2 in addition. And then also this may preempt a few other things as well of those ones that are coming in the near future. The pre-production copy of Everdell Silverfrost. Apparently there was some clamoring for that. So let me know down below if you want to see that soon in addition, because hopefully I will have something out before that campaign ends the end of next week. That one is probably where most of my attention honestly is going to go this weekend. So that is going to be there. And then I will be filming shortly this weekend as well, hopefully maybe next week. So it's going to be a cram-packed week. The second of my usual 2 a month news videos. tons of new games that are super interesting that we're going to have to talk about. It's going to be basically New Game Central. New Game Central. It's going to be awesome. Then also, I mean, I put it off, so maybe it's going to be the first beginning part of February. Maybe even we'll just delay it into February so we have more stuff to talk about, because the first week of February is going to be insane with bigger projects launching of the six-figure digits, if you will, like I was alluding to earlier, of the Don't Back It. And then I also do have a retail from December, January that I need to get out, so that might be in there, and some of these reviews might get slotted around accordingly. So that's what I got going on. Patreon, if you want to know a few of my more direct thoughts on the backing, should you back, concerns, everything else, personal opinions, exclusive content for them as well. They just got one this week in addition. So let me know what else you want to see. So that's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking fantastic weekend. We have 3 soccer games on Saturday. 3 soccer games. A 9, a 1, and a 2. They scheduled the 9-year-old a 1 and a 2 o'clock game back to back. Which means also my 9-year-old, for the same amount of sessions, the same amount of money, got one more game than my 10-year-old. And I'm a little bit peeved about that, because the 10-year-old had a week where he just didn't have any games. And then the 9-year-old had a week without any games. But then the 9-year-old has had 2 weeks with 2 games. We're not very pleased about this. And 9-year-olds just can't do this back to back. I'd be exhausted. And the problem is, they're the team that's doing it. The other 2 teams that they're playing, they don't have games back to back. So it's kind of like a screw you to our team, because like they dominated the first time that happened, and the first game, and then they got their butts kicked in the second game because they were exhausted. So whatever, it is what it is. But right, parenting. My kids had 3 snow days this week. So they had Martin Luther King off, and then they had 3 snow days. Michigan, man, we were sitting at like negative 20 below wind chill earlier this week. Right. Bundle up, folks. That's all I got. We can talk about the weather for a little while too, but I feel like that's just placeholder. So have a great freaking day. Peace out.